Hello guys, welcome back. Here we are for another setup. This time we are at Hungary, the Hungaroring, the infamous Hungaroring, where downforce is the maximum and cornering is also the most important thing that you wanna prioritize over here. Straight line speed, no such thing. So let's get in this setup real quick. If you notice my voice is a bit off, just excuse me. A bit of post-work fatigue kicking in. But here we go. The setup is 11 wings for qualifying. For the wets, you wanna keep it the same. In the race, I haven't tried it to run it any lower, but it definitely loses you some overall pace in the race. So 10-10, 11-10, it's something you could run, but you'll be compromising a lot of your exits and also cornering speed. So 11-11, it's pretty good, especially if you're stuck in the DRS train. You're going to be saving tires, you're going to be saving DRS and ERS anyway. So if you want, you could run something like a 10-10 or even a 10-9, but I wouldn't recommend that. So maybe 11-10. That's still pretty good balance between a straight line speed that you need a little bit to defend on the straights versus overall cornering speed. 10-11 also works depending on how you feel the car is handling with 11-11. If it's understeery, you can drop the rear wing. If it's oversteery, you can drop the front wing. So one way or the other, it would work out in your race mode. Make sure to practice it on heavy fuel as well. That's where you'll find the most difference. Transmission 155. Now with the custom setup, I've lowered the off throttle differential because everything else, such as the suspension, are pretty soft. So the rear is not going to slide off that much. On throttle, you can put it on 100. That's pretty much the best way you want to go for qualifying. In the race, if you're going to be following people, you're not going to be on traction. You don't really require maximum traction out of corners. You also want to be saving your tires. So 90 works pretty well, 85, 80, all down to your personal preference. If you feel the grip is starting to go off as the tires wear down, you can drop it 5 by 5%. Nothing lower than 80, I'd recommend. 155, pretty good for the dries. In the wets, you can drop the off throttle differential to 54. Say you have wet and dry race, mixed conditions one way or another, you can still run 54 off throttle to help you out during the wets. And then once the dries kick in, you can either drop the front wing if it's too oversteery, or you can keep it the same and adjust your driving style accordingly. Right, left, left, left on the geometry, pretty much standard. No questions about this. Pretty standard, pretty fast and stable as well. You want to be finding a lot of cornering speed, so that's where rear camber helps you. Maybe one click to the right if you want a bit more stability coming out of corners, but you really should be fine with the -2 on the rear camber. You can adjust the suspension, which is where you can gain or lose time a lot out of here. Now if you look at the time trial setup, it's something like a 161618, right? And then when you try this, first thing you're going to notice it's very pointy, very loose. It turns in well, it's a lot of speed you can carry into the corners, but it's not made for a race. If you try that out within 5 laps, your tires are going to be gone. Your car is going to be all over the place. So one of the suspension is pretty much what I like to do all the time with my driving style. Gives you the best traction and stability over the curbs as well. You do have to take some of the curbs here in order to gain some time, and also to make sure the car is pointing the right direction, especially like at the end of sector 1, right, the blind left-hander. That one you have to be mounting the curb one way or another, either the inside curb on entry or the exit curb. Either way, you want to be having very soft suspension so that your car is stable over the curbs. 1.7 on my roll bars. That's because that's how I find the performance. So the time trial is 1.6, right, because it has higher suspension as well. Now to counter back the lack of rotation that this setup gives you, so I've raised my anti-roll bar to 7, so that's giving me a bit more turning, just a bit more when I feel I need it. especially through corners, and under braking as well. I'm able to trail brake better. If you need a bit more rotation, if you feel like the setup is a little too stable for yourself, you can go 1.8, 1.9, but at your own discretion. Try it out first, especially in full race fuel, or maybe even half race fuel, to see how the car behaves. Ride height 1.7, again pretty standard here. The time trial setup was a 1.8. I found this to be okay as well, but running 1.8 in the race, you will lose a bit of straight line speed, especially when you don't have DRS. In hot lap mode, in time trial mode, you have hot lap enabled all the time, so you do not notice the speed difference in the straight. But running 1.7 will just give you that tiny bit of extra straight line speed, maybe 1 or 2 kph on the straight, which also regenerates your ERS a little better over a stint. And if you're defending from someone, that might just be something that you need. All right, especially on like equal age tires, if you can keep them like beyond 5/10 coming out of the last corner, and you just deploy a bit of a battery just to defend, you'll be safe pretty much the entire stint. The person is not going to overtake you unless they have much better tire wear and much better pace than you to begin with. In that case, it's better to just let that guy through and mind your own race. Okay, so if you do feel a bit of oversteeriness in this setup, what I recommend is to increase the front ride height to 2. This will also again give you a bit more straight line speed, because that's how it works in the game. Raise the front ride height, the dynamics of the car changes, and it gives you a bit more straight line speed. You will not notice it in time trial mode that much, but when you go into a race or even your practice sessions, right, you will notice that you just gain that 1 kph more maybe, or you just get a better stability of the car through the last corner. And that will allow you to go on the power much sooner. Right, 1.7 is very pointy. This is if you want to get the car pointing into the direction that you want. I have tried 1.6, but there's a lot of medium to high speed corners where you're picking up throttle mid corner here, and 1.6, although it's much better, I feel more stable with this, and also slightly faster in the straight line. But on the traction zones, I'm losing time, and especially through the fast direction changes, the car is bottoming out and I'm losing time actually, surprisingly. So 1.1, 1.7, 1.7 is the suspension you want to go with. Brakes 150 standard, no question about this. If it's a full wet race, you can still keep it at 100%. Say it's like raining from qualifying all the way till the race. You can actually go with something like 90% or 95% brake pressure. That helps you with stopping the car as well, especially if you're not running ABS. If you're running ABS, all the time you can run 100%. Hungary is relatively slow speed track when it comes to the rain. Unless you're really good on trail braking, you're fine. You should be fine with running 100. If you just feel that your braking is inconsistent during the wets, you can drop it to 95. That will help you a little bit, but overall you will lose a bit of braking performance when it comes to the dries. So if it's a changeable condition, keep it at 100. If it's like a full wet race, it's definitely worth it to run 90 or 95, but you have to test it out first for your driving style again. All right, tire pressures, again coming to the time trial setup, it's well, it's full pressures here, because you don't really feel the consequences, if anything, because you have unlimited tire wear and whatnot, so you don't get tire temperatures spiking in time trial. So you can run full pressures, and it helps you to get the car rotated, get the car turned in high speed. It's more responsive, at the cost of slight instability in high speed as well, depending on how you turn the car in, of course. But for the race conditions, you definitely want to prioritize your tire temps. Even if you're, say, a second faster than someone, but your tires overheat and you're stuck behind someone on the throughout the circuit who does not have hot tires, they're going to be pulling away in the corners, and then come the straight, you're not going to make up enough difference to overtake them. So definitely watch out your tire temps, especially at the start of the stint where you're on heavy fuel and the car will feel very sluggy. You want to be driving a little carefully, especially if you're in a train of cars. So 23.5 on the rear, maximum on the rear is definitely needed here, so that your car is stable through the medium to high speed corners as you're picking up throttle. Any lower and your car is just gonna feel unstable, it's gonna spin out, right? In the rain you can probably drop 1 psi, just one, so that you get better traction out of corners, but not two. I feel 23.1 is just nice. For the fronts, in the dries you can run 23.0. This is what I have tested previously just a week ago, and it just works out fine on heavy fuel. If you're on the mediums and hards, say if you're gonna plan to start on the soft tires for some reason in the race, I definitely recommend you dropping down the pressure to 22.6. And also in your qualifying runs, always run 1 psi lower here, so that your tires do not overheat throughout the lap. In hot lap, of course you don't notice it in time trial, but when you go to qualifying and race, you will definitely notice the tire temps are definitely shooting through the roof. So if you're starting on the mediums and you plan to do a medium hards one stop, you can run 23.0. This will just preserve the tires a little more. If you need a bit more grip through these low speed corners, especially when you're following someone, or in your practice you feel you need a bit more grip on the front tires, you can drop it to 22.6. 22.2 also possible. The lower you go, the more grip you're going to get. Tire temps also going to be less, but you know, the funny way is in this game, when you go low on your tire pressures, you get more tire wear. But there's an interesting note here. If you are able to control your tire temps, right, the carcass temperature and also the surface temperature to some extent, if your carcass are pretty okay, you know, below 100 degrees on the temperature, between 95 to 100, 90 to 100 is usually the ideal range. So if you can keep it that way throughout a stint, your tires are going to be very consistent in pace, and that may actually help you reduce tire wear as well, because you're getting less thermal degradation. So you have to test it out again, but I recommend starting off with 23.0 and dropping it one by one if you need a more temperature management. That's about it. And a recap of the setup, here we go. 11-11 for the setup. If you feel there's understeer in the race during a practice, you can drop it to a 11-10 to start the race. If you feel there's a lot of oversteer in the setup, you can drop it to 10-11 instead. Transmission 155. For the rain, you can drop it to 54. If you're going for qualifying laps, you can also use 54 in the wets or dries for quali only. All right. Suspension geometry, right, left, 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 pretty good. Suspension, my preference is 1-1. This is definitely what I'll recommend you do as well. One on the front entry roll bar as well, just to give you better turn in initially, so that you can control your car mid corner and then get a good exit, you know. Rear roll bar, you can increase this if you need a bit more turn in, a bit more, you know, a little less locking up, let's say, let's put it that way. If you're locking up a lot under trail braking, you can increase your rear roll bar, so this will just push the you know, the weight distribution a little to the rear, and that will help you get rotated through the corners, especially in turn 1 and turn 3. That's where your braking zones are really going to be crucial. So if you feel you need a bit more turning on the rear, whether it's on entry or, you know, mid corner, you're struggling a bit, you can increase the roll bar. If you need less turning, let's say the car is oversteering, you can either reduce this to 6, or you can go back to the front wing and drop it by 1. So just a bit of balancing act you need to do there. 1.7 on the right height, again pretty good. 2.7 if you feel the overall car is oversteering, you know, maybe one change that you want to do is just increase the front right height to 2, and that probably would solve all your issues. Sometimes when you have an oversteery car on entry, you get a poor cornering, poor exit. So if you feel you need a bit more, you know, stable car on entry, doesn't turn too much, 2.7 will be your way. if you can control the car mid corner, you know, just turn it the way you want, you get a good exit as well. Brakes 150, no questions about this. One note, like I said, you can drop it to 95 or 90 if it's a full wet race. If you're not running ABS, you can try this out. If you're running ABS, keep it at 100, you know, you'll benefit from this. Although, you know, I don't really like that. Yeah. Front tire pressures, start with 23.0 in your practice, go down one click at a time, nothing lower than 22.2 I'd say, otherwise you're going to be losing a lot of tire life and performance out of it. 23.5 on the rear and you're good to go. So that's the setup. And just to compare the laps that I've done, so I've done a 14.5 with this setup much earlier. You know, after a small break I came back and adjusted this setup. So this setup was a with a 1115 anti-roll bar, so just minor differences, and you saw from the previous the hot lap that I did with this 17 lap, it is a bit more snappy. You know, you gotta control the car a bit more, but I feel for the race this might be what I need. Again, you know, you try out a little combination here. Perhaps you can increase the roll bar and then you can drop the rear wing, or you can you know, drop the front wing as well and increase the roll bar even more to balance out the car. So it's a bit of a fine-tuning if you need, and you should be good to go. Comparing it with a time trial setup that I use, say for example here from my buddy, right? So I have tried it out as well. Time trial setup, this is it, right? I can find 3 more tenths in the second sector, about matching in the first sector. Second sector I can find 3 more tenths because you see the car is a lot more loose on the rear. You can carry a lot more speed into the corners, but it's very unsettling for a race car. So that's the compromise you'll have to make. Again, tire pressures as well, you have to make compromise for the race. You can't be running this in the race, for obvious reasons. Okay, so yep, have fun with this setup, and hope you have a good race as well. And let's see if you can improve on it. You'll let me know in the comments, and hopefully you get a, you know, a better result as well, a more consistent performance as well. So next will be Spa, another good track as well, although I'm finding a little bit difficult to match my previous PB, but I'll still make a updated setup regardless. This weekend, when this video goes live, I will be live in Twitch as well for my Hungarian GP race in the MSRL League. So do drop by and say hi. And the week after, it's going to be a break week, and then the week after that we'll be back with the Belgian GP. All right, so the second half of the season begins after that. So there's going to be a short break in between, and I'll be uploading some tips, or more like a in the mind of a league racer kind of a video. Probably that's going to be a good title, right? In the mind of a league racer. So I'm going to go through all my first 10 races of the season, including the Hungary race, which may happen this weekend, and I'll just explain, you know, what I'm thinking and what I do to make a better decision and whatnot, and in hindsight what could I have done better as well. So all this will help you guys as well to make better decisions in the race. So yep, take care everyone, stay safe, and goodbye.